Hello, everyone. I'm Helen. I'm Senior Sales Director at LG Ad Solutions Europe. I joined LG at the start of this year, and part of my responsibility is to pioneer the UK's regional business. So that's why I'm very happy to be here today at Future of Media Manchester, the very first one, I believe. So LG's been on a real growth journey. We launched in Europe in summer 2022, and since then, it's just been non-stop. Certainly since I joined in January, it's been non-stop. There's new product developments all the time. So basically, I want to spend the next 10 minutes chatting to you about why OEMs are increasingly important in the age of streaming and what they have to offer our various different customer groups. So, let's start with the basics. What is an OEM? What we all need in media is another acronym. OEM is an original equipment manufacturer. They fabricate the device or the component that goes into consumer electronics. And LG's got a long history of building consumer electronics and pushing the boundaries, especially when that comes to smart TVs. We've now, continuing to evolve, we've got ambitions to be a smart life company. So that is involving things like stakes in AI, ventures in digital health, and autonomous cars. Now, I'm not sure I fancy my chances in a driverless car just yet, but if you consider that a lot of the trams in Manchester are pretty much all pre-programmed, and it took me 5 times to pass my driving test. And maybe the robot's looking like the safer option. So, the reason that smart TVs are increasingly important is this growth that we're seeing here, these trends. If we look back 10 years to 2014, smart TV penetration has grown by 7 times. And over a similar time period, we've also seen HDMI usage almost half. So I think a lot of you guys in the room will be 90s babies or older, potentially. So you'll all be familiar when I say that one of my most treasured possessions as a teenager was my Walkman, my portable CD player, which I would try and shove in the back pocket of my jeans, which was then replaced by my iPod Classic that fell in the river when I capsized on Duke of Edinburgh. My parents had bleepers. They had a sat-nav, a TomTom, which they took their A to Z away. I was very relieved because that stopped the arguments. And what do all of these different examples of technological ingenuity have in common? They have kind of been phased out into extinction because their functions have been usurped by one multi-purpose handset, being the smartphone. And what you can see here is a similar kind of trend with the smart TV, where the need to plug in an additional device like a set-top box or a streaming stick is becoming less and less necessary. I will say that obviously these trends that we're seeing here are still mid-flight. We're not at the end of TV's digital transformation. However, if as a viewer you are finding your content on a set-top box or a streaming stick or a streaming application on the TV itself, the screen is the final end delivery point for that content. And so the OEM is in a special position of having that kind of direct-to-glass relationship with the consumer. So, with the kind of evolution of smart TVs, which have been both a driver and a product of TV's shift to streaming, the OEM now finds itself at the center or intersection of 3 main groups. They kind of exist in a bit of a symbiotic relationship where they're all kind of depending on each other for survival. And first of all, we've got the consumer. That's all of us in here, the TV viewers, watching content. Now, the consumer's got a problem. It's a nice problem to have, but they have a problem, and that is they are spoilt for choice. So it takes the TV viewer an average of 11 minutes from turning on their TV to settling down into watching content. There's just far too much choice. The consumer is also switching to ad-supported. So we recently did some research called The Big Shift. 61% of people said that they prefer to watch free and watch ads, and they recognize that value exchange. And they also want those ads to be personalized and relevant to their interests. And lastly, the consumer is really expecting more and more from their smart device. They want things like a better user experience, shoppable capabilities, voice search functions, and personalized content recommendations. Secondly, we've got the content owner. Many of you guys in this room as well, I'm sure we've got broadcasters, sports platforms, studios and production companies, and the TV would be nothing without great content to watch. Content owners are spending millions on great content, and the big challenge for them in the era of streaming is actually cutting through the clutter, reaching audiences, and managing to maintain engagement with those audiences. LG households use an average of 3 to 7 apps. So they spread their viewing out in these different environments. And over half have admitted to subscription cycling. So that's where you download a subscription, watch what you want to watch, and then cancel the subscription afterwards. So it's a big challenge for content owners to keep their audiences loyal and engaged. And another opportunity for them in streaming is to convert the linear viewers, the loyal linear viewers who are now transitioning over to streaming. So we see a big overlap between linear viewers and then the corresponding BVOD apps on the TV, which makes sense as they switch to streaming. But we're also seeing a lot of those linear viewers go to FAST. And I think that's for the simplicity of the linear-like, always-on, free, flicking between the channels experience. FAST provides a new and exciting distribution route for content owners to be able to monetize their content and also, again, reach new audiences. And then lastly, you've got the advertisers. The advertisers, like the consumer, is also spoilt for choice of where to advertise within all of these different content environments. I don't think it's disputed that TV is the best media for brand building, but it's definitely much harder than it used to be to leverage TV since its digital transformation. Again, if we go back 10 years and look at since 2014, TV programs in the UK that reach over 4 million viewers have halved. So advertisers need to adapt their media plans in order to manage fragmentation and try and attain that big screen reach. So the OEM sits in the middle of these. And the one term that I would use to encapsulate the value that the OEM has to offer these three groups is discoverability. You might be familiar with the phrase, content is king, and that is undoubtedly true. But in the era of streaming, where there are endless content choices, fragmented audiences, and disparate viewing behaviors, if content is king, discoverability is queen. So for consumers, discoverability is basically finding what you want to watch faster through personalized content recommendations and voice search. For the content owner, that is being clearly visible on the TV home screen and navigable from the home screen, and also promoting your content to the right audiences who are going to be interested in what you've got to offer. And then lastly, for the advertiser, discoverability is all about pinpointing specific audience cohorts. So whether that's you wanting to reach a mass audience in a key TV tentpole moment, like the Olympics, for example, when everyone's tuning in, or something more specific, like a subset of an audience like console gamers, for example. The OEM can help do this with the automated content recognition data that we have, the viewership data of what people are watching on their TVs. So, TV and its digital transformation is definitely still in flux, but let's cast our minds back a second to what streaming looks like 10 years ago. We've definitely come a long way in a short space of time. Could the future of streaming look like this? I just want to spend 1 minute talking about the tool of the home screen and how valuable that can be. It's the first thing that people see when they turn on their TV. So it's immediately there, and it's kind of the gateway to the household's entertainment experience. The future of streaming for advertisers can include things like 3D ads, animation, interactive ads, dynamic creative, shoppable formats, and so much more. And so in summary, what does the next 10 years look like? OEMs will continue to develop their capabilities to be discoverability engines for consumers, content owners, and brands. OEMs might start to become entertainment companies themselves. So, for example, LG's launched their first owned and operated FAST channel called LG One. It's live now in UK and Germany, and it's actually one of our most viewed channels on the LG Channels app. So I think we'll be seeing more of that from the OEMs. And most importantly, OEMs will act as a willing collaborator with different sides of the TV ecosystem to basically help draw together the dots or the fragmented pieces and create a holistic view of the viewer, and really to kind of shape the future of the TV viewing experience. Thank you very much.